Great, so let's get going. I've brought you here today to talk about Patreon and also about the process of creating a comic. Basically, I'm going to go through some of the elements which are involved, the stages of creating a comic for a page for the Word for Word Bible comic. The first stage I can tell you about is just reading the text. Now, so for example, working on the Book of Esther, first of all I read through the pages and read the whole thing through, and then I often read like a commentary or two, some of my more trusted commentaries that I go to, and pick out some of the elements within the text where sometimes there are difference of opinion among scholars, and then I'll drill down the differences of opinions that are there and why people think different things and what it's based on. Is it based on the reliability of the text, or is it just based on people's hermeneutics? Is it based on people's preconceptions about miracles and things like that? So I read through the whole book, get a good understanding of what scholars say about that book and about some of the controversies around the book and that sort of thing. Luckily with Esther there aren't actually too many differences of opinion among the pages, although there is the interesting element where you've got the Greek, what's called Greek Esther, which is the apocryphal version of Esther, and that has some extra chapters in which kind of give more little bits of the story. There's a couple of dreams, and there's a little expanded scenes and stuff like that. It's like the DVD extras, but it's interesting to figure out where do they come from and are they reliable, and I put that out there to people to answer. Do people want to kind of see? I'm doing the canon version, but do people want to see a lot of the Greek Esther talked about at the end of the book in the notes and things like that? It's interesting that some people are sort of interested in that to a degree, but quite a few people actually were reasonably anti, just being like, don't confuse things, don't put it in there. So anyway, that is stage one. Let me turn your camera around and show you something then. So here's a decent one that I sometimes use. Bible Backgrounds Commentary, Old Testament. So you can just go to any of the books, read through, and you get all the chapter and verse stuff like that. Yes, we got C3PO joining us. You'll see some other stuff on my desk in a minute as well, I'm sure. So that's one example. Good book. IVP. This is another example. It's got I can't show you because of the stand. The Archaeological Study Bible. This is a new one, the ESV version. I've also got the NIV version, and in this one it's got just open it up for you. It's got the verses just as normal, and then it's got notes. Let me just change this screen now. And then it's got archaeological little essays and stuff like that in amongst, along with the actual Bible text. Then I've got millions of these books basically, and each Christmas I say, can I have some more books about history for my work? Here's another interesting one. Oh wait. This one, every home should have, an interlinear Bible, Greek, Hebrew and English. So the Old Testament parts have got the Hebrew, and then New Testament parts have Greek. Don't know how well you can see it. And it's got all the verses, and it's got them in English, and it's got them in this case Greek next to it, and then it's got the number and everything. It's a bit like what's the thing is, I bought these years ago, but now you can actually do it online, so it's actually easier to look it up online, which is another thing that I do. So I study the actual text, then I move on to the next stage, and I look at books like this one, which have lots of visuals, contemporary visuals. So this was one that's obviously contemporary for Esther. Yeah, these are Osprey books. As I was just saying, I love these books, Osprey. And they've got, not only do they have lots of contemporary images and then lots of text as well that tells you all about it, but also they have the middle pages where they have artists recreate the people of the day and the costumes and stuff, and give you the year and all the different nationalities and that sort of thing. So this is really useful for like just general like costuming of everybody who's in the in the comic. So basically I can work through stuff like this and get a feel for the setting and just do loads of archaeological research. Then is get into the actual like creating the book stage. Now that's where this comes in. I did it in a little book this time. Not last time I did it on loads of separate pieces of paper, but that was silly by comparison. So in this book, actually, if I start at this end, I've just got lots of initial sketches of the character designs and stuff like that, influences and things like that. This is the image that I used for the cover for Kickstarter, as you probably remember. And this is an Esther timeline, so just looking at getting it all right in my head. And then there's another example, the king, an early picture of the king that I did. Anyway, then I go on to thumbnailing like basically the whole book. So it's the whole book in very rough. And what I do is, let's make sure I get some light on there, is just like I say, thumbnail these ones. Just sorry, reading Leslie's comment. We've been having so many colourful characters in this new comic. Yes, like a lot of the comics that we've done so far, all the people have been wearing brown and grey and sort of natural colours. But in the Persian kingdom, in the palaces and kings and things like that, got purples and reds and blues and everything going on. It's a real contrast with some of the others. So this page you may recognise as the first page, which again was on Kickstarter with the map, and in the end I did Xerxes standing. And what I do is I put in like the words that need to go there, so you can see that I put the first few words, this is what happened, and then I put the last word, so I know that when I come back and draw this bit and I'm reading the Bible verse alongside, that text box has got the words that start there and end there. So turn the page for examples. And so I then thumbnail out the pages, and I then do like all the pages, start to finish, at the start, before I start drawing the actual book. I was just thinking, Leslie and that, Orion's not here because he doesn't use Facebook, so he's not here, but we should have Chris on the line. I haven't seen any comments from Chris, so Chris, if you're there, pop a comment on. Now, so those guys haven't seen these either, but basically, yeah, I draw stuff in rough and plan out how the panels are going to go, and then work through the text, adding it on. And this time I've been generally quite I've stuck to the thumbnails quite sort of well, if you know what I mean. Like, I haven't actually, on the Mark one, as I got partway through, there was pages where I was like, this page is too short, you know, it needs to be longer, and then so I had to like add in pages or things like that. So again, this, maybe you can even recognise what this picture's, you know, become later on. The actual finished piece looked quite a lot like it, and you can see in the blue notes and there I've also put like where they are, and I did that actually at the end. So these blue ones are where I've gone through the story, and then at the end I've gone, oh, where are these things happening, and also where do they come up again. So in this case they're having the party in the garden. Now it doesn't say near the end of the book or anything that they go to the garden, but I've put some of the scenes in the garden at the end of the book because they could be anywhere, and to give the book some symmetry essentially, but that gets into some complicated things about Esther. Anyway, that is the thumbnails, so you can see I've done the whole book all the way to the end, and then that's the last page. So it says garden court for mirroring. Oh, there you go, so it even says in my notes. So basically the reason is the Book of Esther has a structure where all the things that happen at the beginning happen in reverse at the end, and in the middle scene is where Mordecai is brought through the city on horseback. So Chris, that's good, excellent timing, Chris. I was asking about Chris because I wanted to tell people, let me just put something interesting on the screen. So Chris is here because he is a fan of the work, but also he's been learning to be colour. So Chris Macaulay, he, I noticed, has been learning and doing a course with Michael K. Russell, the colourist, and I saw some of his on the Facebook, some of his practice things and things like that, and we needed an extra man to step in and do some extra pages so we can get the Book of Esther finished in time for all the summer events and stuff that we're going to. And so Chris has come along to help us. He'll be doing about 10 pages, maybe more, of the book, and so that's an exciting addition to the team. And so everybody keep an eye out for Chris on the groups and stuff like that. So yeah, we welcome him because Ryan, who's been really great and reliable and is also still doing work, he is also currently doing JET, if you know that is, a Japanese English teaching, and so he's sort of doing that all the time, so he has less time to do the comic right now, so that's why we got the edition. And then Chris, it's complete pressure. Well, we have to see how it goes. Bruce Nicol, you're here. Hello, Bruce. Cool. Now the reason I put this on the screen, aside from having nothing, not wanting you to look at nothing, is this is the actual Patreon page itself, where you can come and become a patron. You click here and you choose the level. There's a few different levels, as we've said at the very beginning. The first one technically is this one, which is where you just donate. You can give with no reward if you want to. It's good for us tax-wise, and if you're not bothered about receiving a reward, then that is one way of doing it. It saves you getting emails and stuff. But this level is the lowest one. Sorry, I was just distracted by Chris's question, which I'll answer in a second. This level is the low level, which includes pages, the taster level. You get 2 pages a month, so you get 1 page every sort of 2 weeks roughly, and it's just pages from the Book of Esther, pages that I've been working on, but they're not sequential. So what happens is I'll do like 8 pages, which will go out to the other people, and it'll be of those 8 that you'll get 2. That is the the minimum one, and you can join, and that's $1 per month, or or more. Then you can go with the donation. You can put any amount. With this one, I call it Reader. You get 8 pages a month, so you get like 4 pages every 2 weeks roughly, and it means that they're all in sequence. So at the moment we're working through the Esther pages, and they're up to page like 24, I think, and so that's all the pages that have been coloured so far. Currently I'm drawing page 53, and there's 65 pages. Now, what we'll do is we'll cover the other levels a bit later on, and we'll go back to making the pages. But to answer Chris Watts' question, he said, awesome, does it mean it'll be out faster? Well, that's kind of the idea. I wanted to have it ready, Chris, for CVM, so I hope you're going to be there this year again. I'm hoping that I'll actually finish Esther and have it printed and everything before then. That's my goal. And basically all the summer events that then follow, people who see me face to face will be able to purchase copies at events. Like I say, if they see me face to face. Other than that, if they're not a backer, well, if they are a Kickstarter backer, they'll also get it about that time in June or July, and then other people will be able to buy it in September. So the sooner I finish it, the sooner Kickstarter backers, like Chris Watts, will receive it in the post. So, but yeah, so like that's one of the reasons we did want to get more colorists in to help finish it quicker, so we can have it completely finished and sent out. Okay, now going back to making the comic. Let me put you back to the desk, and the light on, so can't see anything. Okay, so, sorry, let's get you straight. Okay, that will do for now. Then I draw the actual pages, and I get a piece of paper like this. A3 Bristol board, so it's quite thick, it's like very thick paper, and I draw out the page. Now, funny actually, I picked this one. I picked 2 pages. I draw on the back as well. Here you go. Here's one that's not messed up. So let me try and get it so it's lit up. There we go. I draw a page. I draw it first with purple pencils, like these. It's not very good for the light, is it? You see that? Well, anyway, it's a purple pencil. It's like a pencil with purple lead. The webcam is going up. Let me just fiddle around with it. So the reason I had the other side out is because this page you can actually see. If I get this. Let's see what you can see. Okay. Now you can just see, it's hard to see, the whole point of these pencils is they're not very easy to pick up on digital, but you can just see some of the lines. So they're very faint, and I actually draw stuff out really roughly. And then I get, so then once that's done, so you can see it's drawn, and then I ink it with inks. What I use for that is start with this pen, which is a zebra pen. Oh, sorry, not very good on the screen. Yes. Zebra pen. And what it is, it's a brush pen. You see? And it's like a sort of like a brush on the end. And I do the outlines by hand, and I do some of the drawing with that pen as well. And then let's get it back to here. Sorry, I just realised that's distracting in the background. And then I use the other pens. So here's some examples of the other pens. I use these ones. The light's being a bit tricky, isn't it? There we go. So these are pigment liners, and I'm sure you're familiar with this sort of thing. And they have little ends, and they say like 08 and things like that. You can't see that. Now, what I need to do is get the camera and the light to work together. I wonder if I turn this off. It's too dark. What I will do, I'll just hold it for a second. You can see some comments going on. I'm not watching right now. So I'm just holding it by hand for a moment so that the light is actually going to work. Right, so these pens, these are the ones I bought most recently. It goes down to 05, which is really, really thin. And the reason I do it by hand and not straight into the computer is because I find it really hard working on the computer to actually tell how big stuff is, and when you do lines, you can, when you do it on the computer, you can't tell how small they are, because you can just infinitely zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and you can just like move, you know, color individual pixels, but you don't know, because this, you don't know how it's going to be. So this page is A3, right? But the actual book is printed closer, like smaller than A4. So the pictures are drawn at this size and they're shrunk down. And the reason to do that is so that you, so that the detail that you put in, when it's shrunk down, it actually looks sort of even better. And then, so anyway, I draw it. And this is the stage that gets to, I don't put the blacks and stuff on, you know, the blacks that are in my comics, you'll see in a moment. I don't do that yet. And the reason for that is that if you black, so if the light is coming down on this side and you black this side of her face, and then you realise, oh, wait a minute, the light is going the other way, you know, stuck. And so I quite like, and also I like to play around with it. Because if I do it by hand, again, you're stuck with what you've done, and so you're less inclined to be brave in case you mess it up. Whereas if you do it digitally, you're more inclined to, you know, give stuff a try. Let me just, sorry, I'm just trying to get the, I'll show you the other screen now. Once it's scanned into Photoshop, I then bring it up and put it into a file which is pre-prepared to take them and hold the, it holds already, right, the all the words and stuff that are like blanks for the words. So let me just bring up this one. Yeah, which looks like this, and then I bring in the picture onto here, and it's already got all these boxes ready to go. So you put them on top of the images, and then you duplicate them, and you bring the words in, and you put the speech bubbles in and stuff like that. And so you bring in an image, and it will look. Let me try and make this one look like that. It'll look like that, basically, in essence. And then what I was going to say about this is, when I'm inking, I don't have to be too precious about what I'm doing, because I know that if I get it wrong or do something that's not quite right, then when I get to this stage, I can just fix it digitally. But the main reason for actually doing it by hand in the first place is just to get the scale right, and and the line thickness. You can see the line thickness is, even if you then now go in and change it, you can see, so you can zoom in all you want, but you still know that that line is that thick. So if you put another line here, you still know that's how thick it should be. Anyway, so I can edit it once it's in. Then this page is the one I brought up for our little show, because it's an example of where two things where I've got it wrong on the ink, and also another one where I've duplicated something. So here, Haman's face, I then, in this image, I've just duplicated it. So I've copied it from there, made it bigger, put it here, and then I've adjusted the eyes and the nose and the mouth and stuff. And the reason I did it rather than just draw it twice, aside from it being easier, is because I wanted it to seem like it was like an instant. His eyes are closed and then they're open. So, in fact, I can make this bigger now. So that's an example of where I've done that, and I can show you on here, not on there. Hold on. On the actual sheet. Okay. Try and see what you can see. So that you can see that it's empty. And you can also see from this, maybe we need to light a second, that I did this bit wrong. So this is like the only page that's like this pretty much, where I've actually drawn something and then I've realised, oh no, it's not right. Because what happened was I was drawing it, and this is the moment where Esther's told the king, and Haman's realised that she's told the king that he's a bad man. Then what I had was the king stand up and be cross, and in fact I was also going to show you it in here. So in the thumbnail is here. Let me just make sure you can actually see it. So the king's surprised, Haman's eyes are wide, and then I've got the king stands up and Esther standing up as well, and then they talk, and Haman is here behind them. But then when I read it again, when I was drawing it, I realised it says she says this wicked Haman, and then it says Haman's afraid, and then it says the king stood up in his wrath, and I realised, oh no, he was to sit down. So I had to go back and draw this panel again, and I decided I didn't want to waste the piece of paper, so I just draw it here. And also you'll notice that here at the bottom I've extended the panel out the bottom, and then when I then scanned it and put it in here, I shifted the whole thing up so that bottom bit's still there, and cut the top off so that it fitted better in the panel. But the reason for doing all that, of course, is so that it more perfectly fits the words. If the Bible couldn't go off piste on that, be like, oh wow, I've drawn him standing up now. So I was a bit annoyed about that one, but I had to go back. Alright, let me just see if I can see some of the comments you've put on here. I can see, yeah, Chris has put his review. Chris, I didn't really tell you much about Chris. Chris is reviews comics, he reviews other stuff like films and pop culture-y things like that. He's got a blog. He's put a link in the comments. You can check out the review of the Gospel of Mark, which is how we met, Chris and I knew the guys from Geek Syndicate, so if any of you listen to the podcast and use the website for Geek Syndicate, I met those guys at a Comic-Con and got chatting to them, and I've known them now for a couple of years. And I said to Barry, I was like, "Come on, Barry, you got to review my comic on the Geek Syndicate website." And he's like, "All right." And then he put it out to some of the reviewers, and Chris was one of the reviewers. We didn't know each other then, and he picked it up and read it and reviewed it and really liked it and got in touch. And then we chatted over Skype, and he reviewed it, and Chris helped me get the endorsement from Bruce Marciano, which I think I saw was mentioned in a comment earlier, and so that was really good. I've got that endorsement now as one of my top endorsements that I have on my stand and on the website and everything like that. I'm just looking back on some of your comments. People are saying that they like the expressions and stuff on the characters. Well, yeah, thank you. I do try to make it so that they have amusing expressions. It's a twofold thing. I read other Christian comics, and too many times the people just have really wooden expressions. And even though really exciting or crazy things are happening, and sometimes, like this in this story, it's actually a moment in the story that's supposed to be quite funny and exciting, and a big change of pace or a big reveal or a big a dramatic moment. And so it's really important to get that drama, humour, what I like putting in is the awkwardness and stuff like that, which brings the comedy. So I mean, in this scene, you've got Esther telling the king that Haman's a bad man, and Haman's literally sitting there hearing that he's being a bad man, and then she points a finger at him, and then the king storms out, and it's really dramatic. The other thing I was going to say about that was that in the early days of doing this, when I didn't know, what I was doing, and I was just, I'd done about 20 pages of the Samson story, and it's before I did the Kickstarter, I think. And one of my friends called DX, who's also a patron on Patreon, he read those pages, and he's one of these people who's a friend who wouldn't tell you, they wouldn't say, "Oh, it's great," and then not mean it. So when he did sit down, read through the 20 pages, I was a bit like, "Oh, what's he going to say?" And then, but he was just he's just "It's perfect." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, the expressions and stuff. So I knew that, it must be good if I got a good praise from him. And obviously since then people have told me that's good. So I'm happy that people are enjoying the faces. That's what I find. I try and make sure that any opportunity to have an amusing face on the in the comic, something amusing, something awkward, whatever, that these things come out. Now, where have we got to in our list of things? So we scanned it in, adjusted the lines, right, and then and put the words on. So I said a minute ago about the words. So here's the words, and then I put the gutters on as well, and then I do the shadows. I put them in on the computer. And so like I say, you can be a bit more brave because they're not actually attached. And sometimes I don't use them at full opacity. So now and again. So if it's like very highly lit, or the shadows make it hard to understand the picture. Anyway, so then I do the shadows, but I put them in post-production. Then that's it. Then my part in it sort of mostly finished. That's the point where I send it over to the colorists, and I add notes. Not many on this one. This one's a continuation of a previous, it's the same scene, so there's no point like telling people the colours again because they're all the same people. But, you know, I put a reference that says same jewellery as before, because Esther was wearing this jewellery, you couldn't see it in the last page, but you could see it like 10 pages ago. So just making sure people know it's the same jewellery. And yeah, add some notes. I also often put in some of the reference. So, for example, it's not here, it would have been on a previous page, but Haman's necklace, you might see, oh, it's very oriental, it looks almost Chinese. Well, the reason for that is, bring it up, I use the internet, but I store all the pictures that I find for reference on Pinterest boards, and you can just go and look at the Pinterest boards if you want. And they get, because I'm actually working on this stuff rather than just collecting it for fun, they get really, really full. So, where are they? So Persian, so it'd be P. So yeah, Persian clothing and armour. It's got 240 pins on it. This one. What was I looking for? Haman's necklace. So that's one of the inspirational ones for Esther's bracelet she's wearing there. And so sometimes when they first come up, I often just take that image and put it on the actual reference for the colorists so they can see. Two of the colorists are here joining us right now, so they can attest to that, I'm sure. I was trying to find the one that Haman was wearing, wasn't I? And the reason is basically the Scythian people, who are one of the subjugated people of the Persian Empire, are made up of people from across, well, on the western side, like Iran, and then on the eastern side, all the way to like basically Proto-Mongolia, so pre-Mongolians, but that's the steppes where they lived. So you can see all the cups and stuff. I don't know where this necklace has gone. It might be in the other one. And so they're basically Mongolian. So they're basically almost, they're Oriental people, and they are famed for their gold. And they make Scythian gold is like kind of famousy. Here's some Scythian gold here. I wonder if it's with that. But anyway, so you can see on here all the loads of references for women's clothes, and it's one of the eunuchs and all the statues. And it's good because it's not just like engravings, but also statues. So you get 3D. Sometimes you get 3D people and 3D horses' heads to look at. And use as reference. So yeah, that. So I just noticed Chris said so much research. Yeah, I find this stuff, but also I try to double check it as well. So for example, I just seen this one. There's a picture of a cavalryman sort of thing, a man on a horse, and it's from a rug that's actually survived from almost the time of Xerxes. And it shows you not only the horse and everything, and the sort of shape of, the saddle and the man, but the colours, some of the colours. So we use that as a inspiration for the colours, which I sent to Leslie. Leslie coloured that file. But I also double check it. So there's a picture on a carpet, but that could just be like a one-off that a guy made a carpet and he drew it like this, but it's not really how it is. It just was the guy who did the carpet. He just thought it'd be fun to put little triangles on the saddle and stuff. So I had to then cross-reference it and try and find other examples. It's probably right next to it. I can't see it right now. So other horses and images of horses, and in the end anyway I found loads since then, some on coins, and some where were they? There was like a statue, I think, and they basically, but this saddle with those triangle bits on the back is quite a like distinctive thing. And the thing is, you can find osprey pictures or things like that, and they have the same, but what you don't know is whether there's only one image, which is the carpet, and then the osprey artist has used it as well. So yeah, I normally have to find 2 references at least, which show you. There you go. So look, there's the carpet, and there's an artist's rendition of it, and there's another artist, and there's the coin that I was talking about. So on the coin you can see it's almost the same as the carpet, and that's in a contemporary coin. So then you've got 2 contemporary images of the thing you wanted, and that one had colour, so we used that to create the image. Which brings us actually nicely, now I'm thinking about it, to talking about the videos. But I've just noticed that Tom was saying Xerxes, is he the one from 300, the Spartan legend? Yes. So in the book of Esther, they call the king Ahasuerus, and it's the Jewish sort of name for him. Time-wise, most scholars would agree that it was Xerxes. And Xerxes is, as you say, the one who also shows up in the film and the comic 300 and the Battle of Thermopylae, which was a real thing. And so in the comic there's a reference to the Battle of Thermopylae, which Leslie's just coloured. It's always fun having battle scenes to colour. The reason I brought us back to here was I've got a page about Xerxes. So lots of images, written references, websites with information about Xerxes, coins of Xerxes, his seal, and and how that connects to the videos is if you're a patron and you back for $5 or more, I've called it Learner, you get all 8 pages as before, and you get 2 videos a month. The videos are roughly about 30 minutes long, and I go through the historical stuff, which like we were just talking about just a second ago. And on one of them that I just did, where we talked about whether the king Ahasuerus is Xerxes, or it's possible that it's Darius. Darius is the father of Xerxes, but we might as well get into it now. But this is a coloured version of a relief, which is a famous relief of the Persian kings, but you can see that these 2 people are the same. This is the king, this is the heir. Now people don't know if this is Darius and this is Xerxes, or this is Xerxes and this is Artaxerxes' heir, or one of his heirs. And so the point being, they look the same. So even if it was Darius in the comic, or Darius in real life, or that was Ahasuerus and not Xerxes, and got it wrong, he looks the same anyway. So so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, they look the same. And so that's what we did. They only live 40 years apart and stuff like that. So all the archaeology, all the horses and saddles and things are all the same. But as I say, you get this every other week then, a little video, and I go through, actually logged in as I am, you can see, I'll show you the posts. So the pages, just loading up. So for example here, a page, and it tells you the page number, another page, and so all these 4 pages go out at once, these 4 that are above. And then the week in between, there was Esther pages 9 to 12 explained. So we'll go through the pages one by one, talk about, and you can even see that guy, I don't know how well you can see it, is the horseman that we were just talking about a second ago. In the same colours as on the carpet. That is basically what happens. The final stage is that they get coloured by the colourist, as I say, and then the colourist send them back to me, and then I look at them and I make sure that everything's like how I wanted it. And you know, once in a while you get like it was common that things like spear, what's it called, a spear haft, like a, you know, the pole of a spear would get mistaken for, you know, someone's like finger or something like that. And you know, so I'd like just pick out those bits and change them, and or you know, make it a bit lighter, make it a bit darker, change the colour a bit, and then do the final touches, and then that's it basically. A page. I try to do roughly a page a day, sort of. I do like 3 or 4 pages a week. I work 5 days a week, so yeah, just under a page a day. Something. Then so the last thing to tell you about is, oh, look at that, perfectly heading towards the hour, which is what I was sort of thinking. The last level on Patreon, which I've just added, so Patreons who are watching, this is a new one, so you could upgrade to, or if you're on the 5 and you give more than 5, you can change to this. It's basically the same, you get all the same benefits, except you can basically save up for having you in the Bible. If you people are watching, you remember from the Kickstarters, that one of the options, the high level options, you can pay to have your cameo in the Bible, your little face as an extra or as a speaking part, depending on the amount. But you can therefore use the Patreon to give a small amount each month, which should then add up in the long run to the value to then get a cameo. So with, you know, within a year or two or whatever, you can sort of use it to like patronize the comic, but also be saving up to have your little face put in the book as well. So that is a new benefit. I've also highlighted that all patrons, even the lowest of levels, get credited within the book. So here's a book here, on the back. This is Judges. There's, can you see? No, probably not. A list of all the names of the backers and patrons. So if you become a patron of the comic, whether it's $1 a month or $10 a month or whatever, then it'd be great to have you on there. You get to see all the stuff, you get to be part of the community. You can, when the pages go up, you're seeing them sort of pretty much first. You can add questions, you can point out problems, whatever it is, give your opinions, and you know, get involved. So that kind of concludes our time. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.